Morning, everybody. So Adam is young enough that he says things like, I hope the Browns get back on track. Like, you got to be on track to get back on track. I am 47 years old, and I have yet to see the Browns, like, on track for anything great to get back. Now, I love the Browns. I watch every week, but back on track. What's that? Yeah, what happened? What happened in that first playoff game? Anyway, I admire the eternal optimism. I also admire you coming out in September in Ohio where the weather cannot be beaten, and you came to church this morning. You deserve a stack of donuts because you came to church on a day like that. I appreciate that, and you can have the donuts. If I had my way, it would have been mozzarella sticks to go with my Diet Coke. But I don't have that kind of authority around here, so donuts it is. All right. We're going to continue our series on the book of Ephesians, and we're getting to this place where Paul talks about marriage and parenting, so he's talking about family. Now, I grew up in the 80s, so I am automatically qualified to talk about family because these were the kinds of shows that I was raised on. Family Matters, Growing Pains, Cosby Show, Full House, there were Home Improvement, all kinds of sitcoms in the 80s every Thursday night. You gathered around the TV, the one TV that you had in the house, and you watched the sitcom, and you did not miss it because in the 80s, if you missed it, it was gone. You didn't pull up the streaming service and go to whatever episode you wanted. You didn't DVR anything. Nobody could figure out how to program a VCR to, So you watched it religiously or you missed it. But that's what entertainment was in the 80s. It was all TV shows about family. Now, I also happened to grow up in a very close family. Dad was home from the factory every day at 3:30. Mom was a part-time hairdresser, 4-course meal every day. You did not miss the dinner table. Everything stopped for the family dinner. And my parents will celebrate 50 years of marriage next month. And Kelly and I are ready to head out on a short little cruise getaway for our 25 years of marriage in a couple days here. And then, we were 25 back in July, but we'll go out this week to celebrate that now that baseball season's finally over. And we have 2 boys in terms of parenting, 16 and 19. And seems to be going well. Got a junior at Brunswick and a sophomore at Cleveland State. They are respected. So I'm just starting to feel like I have a little bit of ground to stand on in terms of talking about marriage and parenting. I never like to do that, and still it's with great fear and trembling because we all know we're like one bad decision from any of the 4 of us that can make me feel like I have no ground to stand on. So it comes with fear and trembling talking about parenting and marriage, but at the same time, starting to feel like I've seen some things in 25 years of marriage and pastoring and parenting and all that. So we're going to look at the book of Ephesians where Paul's going to talk about marriage first and then parenting. I'm going to point out a few principles in both, in Scripture and in my own personal life, and then we'll do our moment of prayer for the school. So I'm just going to read this. One of the things I want you to see from this, even if you don't have kids and aren't married, there's something about the way ancient Scripture is written that's very useful from this that you're going to see, because a lot of times the Bible has this reputation of being misogynistic, of being male-dominant, authoritarian, archaic, whatever. But I want you to see here where sometimes, if you understand the context, you see that it's not really a misogynistic message. It's the Bible taking a culture and moving it a few clicks forward. So we're gonna see that here as well, along with some marriage advice. So here we go. This is Ephesians 5. Submit to one another out of reverence for Christ. So first of all, before we even get to the juicy stuff that gets quoted more often, Paul advocates mutual husband and wife submission. This was a big deal back then. Back then when men did rule the family and when women could be seen as wives could be seen as little more than a possession. Okay? So in a male-dominated culture, for Paul to even say, hey, submit to one another out of reverence for Christ. That was a little bit of a shocker. But for the most part, our culture, this next part gets a lot more energy in the culture, especially from the critics. Okay, here we go. Buckle up. Wives, submit to your husbands as you do to the Lord. For the husband is the head of the wife, as Christ is the head of the church. Now, I say that totally joking, because if you know me, you know how that ain't my household. I wear pants, but I don't wear the pants. Now, the church submits to Christ, so wives should submit to their husbands in everything. Husbands, love your wives, just as Christ loved the church and gave himself up for her to make her holy, cleansing her by the washing with water through the word, and to present her to himself as a radiant church without stain, wrinkle, or any other blemish, but holy and blameless. How did Jesus accomplish that for the church? He died for them. He gave up everything for them. He sacrificed for the church. So, husbands, here's your model. Sacrifice everything for the good of your wife. In the same way, wives ought to love their wives as their own bodies. He who loves his wife loves himself. After all, no one ever hated their own body, but they feed it, care for their body, just as Christ does for the church. Let me tell you what he's doing there. Whenever you see the word hated in the New Testament, ask yourself what the context dictates. Is the goal to say, like, despise hate? Or is it to say, hold in second place? Most of the time, the word translated hate really means like hold in second place. So when Jesus says, you must hate your mother compared to me, obviously he's not saying, I want you to despise your mother. That's like one of the 10 commandments. He's saying, hey, family takes second place to Jesus. So when he says, nobody hates their body, what he's really saying is nobody holds their body in second. And his point is, for husbands and wives, like, you need to love your wife like you love your own body, and your body doesn't get second place. So what he's really saying is your wives need to be seen as equals with mutual submission and all that. It says, for this reason, a man will leave his father and mother and be united to his wife, and the two will become one. See the equality thing there? This is a profound mystery, but I'm talking about Christ and the church. However, each one of you must also love his wife as he loves himself, and the wife must respect her husband. More on that in a minute. But I want you to see here. In an ancient world where men ruled the house to whatever extent they wanted, Paul almost couldn't have said, hey, we're going to establish equality. Husbands, wives are totally equal. Like, if he came out with that message, no man is going to want to go liberate his wife by joining this movement. But if instead he says, husbands are the head of the house, that's something men could come alongside of in that day. But then he redefines what that means. Mutual submission, respect, love, sacrifice. That's what that means. Do you see the way he kind of takes a cultural understanding and moves it a few clicks forward effectively? It's about, you can speak truth all day, but if nobody's listening, it's not going to do any good. But if you're careful with your wording and speak the truth effectively, you can move things a few clicks forward. If you take a rubber band and it'll snap. But if you slowly stretch, it can get somewhere. It can expand. So that's so much of this stuff where the Bible's accused of like this misogynist document, whatever, it's a misunderstanding of what the ancient authors are trying to do, how they're trying to slowly expand the way people think about things. But you can't just rip it or nobody's going to listen to you. Okay, so let's talk about a couple quick principles here. The first one is found in, there it is, verse 31. This is repeated by Paul and Jesus, and it started in Genesis. So this is from the first pages of the Bible. For this reason, a man will leave his father and mother and be united to his wife, and the two will become one flesh. I can tell you let's go, I watch my parents. I watch a lot of successful marriages that stand the test of time. I know in my own marriage, now 25 years, this ancient, archaic document says, hey, oneness is really important in a marriage. Oneness. And I can tell you if you're married or want to be married, oneness is a central theme. Do your very best to include your spouse in every decision that involves everybody to the level that they want to be included in that decision. The more you separate, the more you make decisions on your own. Now, you can all have your own spaces. That's important. Like, you got to have a little bit of autonomy. But oneness is crucial, because when you start to feel this separation, this exclusion, it creates resentment, and that festers and accelerates and snowballs. So ask yourself, is there oneness in my marriage? Especially if you're sensing, tension, mounting tension, just do your best to include your spouse to the level that they want to be included in the decisions that involve the family. Huge deal. The next principle for marriage is found in verse 33. And this is this powerful sentence that is often overlooked, and you rarely hear people talk about this. And the older I get, the more marriages I watch succeed and fail, especially fail. So here we go. Each one of you must love his wife as he loves himself. So love is important, right? Husband should love wife, duh. Everybody knows that. Everybody agrees with that. But look at this last one. The wife must respect her husband. Now, I have seen this, and you can disagree with me. I don't care. I'm right. I'm 47. I just say stuff. This is a thing. I know all the disclaimers. Not everybody. Men need love too, and they do, and all that. Yeah. Unless the husband is a flaming narcissist, if the wife will find ways to intentionally show respect to the husband, watch him melt and run after any need. Again, there are some flaming narcissists out there that just don't respond in kind because they think that they deserve respect and all that stuff. But listen, so often, if the wife will find ways to intentionally show respect to the husband. I had some older married couples come up to me after the first service and telling me, I know the day that I learned that and everything changed. Like, it just, if the wife finds, here's the thing, and this is all I know, sexist and old school and whatever, women tend to fight with disrespect. Like the eye rolls and things like that. Be careful, because disrespect for a man, and listen, most men, not all men, most men, because I've even asked this, okay? Most men, if they had to pick, if you can only have one, people love you or people respect you, you can only have one, which would you pick? Most men would pick respect. Respect is an important value for men. So, fight for oneness. Husbands, obviously, find ways to intentionally show love to your wife. Wives, find ways to intentionally respect your husband. You want a resource? I got one. Glad you asked. There is a book called Love and Respect that, for me, is like the holy grail of marriage advice. If you go to the app and go to the resource tab, the very first thing says Marriage and Parenting Resources, and you'll find a link to the Amazon book, Love and Respect. I know people, because I've said this for like 15 years now. If your marriage is on the ropes, before you go to the lawyer, just read Love and Respect together and try it. And I know people who have said, you know what, we heard you say that, we did it, and our marriage is thriving now. So seriously, Hail Mary, one last shot, Get that book. And even if your marriage is great, it's really good stuff. And it talks about how husbands can show love in meaningful ways and wives can show respect in intentional ways. It's a game changer. All right, let me move on to parenting. Again, a couple bad decisions, and I may tell you I'm a terrible parent. I'm just getting to where I got a 16-year-old, 19-year-old. They're well-adjusted, respected kids as far as I know. Most adults around them tend to affirm that. I feel like I figured some things out my wife and I figured some things out with the help of a lot of mentors and the scriptures. I'm going to read this to you and then use it as a bridge to talk about just a couple little nuggets that I've learned that are gold. Okay? And then what you do with it, totally up to you. Here we go. This is what Paul says: children, obey your parents in the Lord, for this is right. Honor your father and mother, which is the first commandment with a promise, so that it may go well with you and that you may enjoy long life on the earth. Fathers can also be translated parents. Parents, do not exasperate your children. Instead, bring them up in the training and instruction of the Lord. So let me just stop right there. Here's the principle out of this. You ready? This is brutal. You have been entrusted to raise God's kids. Doesn't that take your breath away? You, if you're a parent, have been entrusted to raise God's kids. They are first His kids. And you have been instructed to raise them to know Jesus, to raise them into friendship with Jesus. That is an unbelievable calling. And you have to take it seriously because all kinds of entities out there have an agenda for your kid. Businesses, organizations, activities, sports, and all those things can be good. But first and foremost, you and I have been entrusted to raise God's kids to know Jesus. And if we don't keep that on the forefront, that will get pushed aside, and none of us want that. So it takes intentionality, but you've been entrusted to raise God's kids. Okay, couple quick, just real practical stuff, and I may get to more of this stuff in the next series. I'm not sure yet, but here's what I got that I would want everybody to know and at least have to deal with, okay? First of all, ask people with a product you admire what they did to get there when it comes to parenting, when it comes to marriage, when it comes to finance. Be very, very careful where you get advice. And my best advice for you is to find people with grown kids that you look up to. You're like, wow. And ask them for advice and mentoring and things like that. Don't go to social media and ask. Don't ask in a group. Don't find advice all willy-nilly for parenting, marriage, and finance. Go to people that have results you admire and ask them. That's advice point number one. Number two, the child, and we got this from some of our parenting mentors, and I remember Kelly was pregnant, and we were talking to them, and we didn't even ask. They were just like, listen. And I look back on that, and I say, man, okay, so the child is a welcomed addition to, but not the center of, the family. Fight the battle to keep your kid from believing they're the center of everything. If you're married in parenting, the marriage is the center of the family. And the sooner they understand that, the better it's going to be. But fight the battle to make sure your kids do not believe that they are the center of the universe. There's enough in us as humans pointing toward that feeling. Fight that battle. And then number 3, fight the battles early. Because if you think if your 3-year-old rules the roost, wait till they're a teenager. It's not going to fix itself. And I remember, man, if you're a young parent, I remember days when I put Elijah in his crib. We got Spencer down, he's the older. I put Elijah in his crib, and I laid down on Elijah's floor because I couldn't make it to my bedroom, and just spread eagle fell asleep because I had nothing left to give. I remember how those battles, it's just so easy to let them win. And it just, if your 3-year-old can rule the roost and run the show and does their thing and isn't in check, preteen ain't gonna be pretty. So, couple quick resources here. This changed our life. We had some parenting mentors, because listen, I got 2 boys. One of them was very easy to parent. We thought we were great. Another one of them, won't tell you which, was extremely difficult to parent. Took enormous amounts of intentional parenting. Rebellious, strong-willed, crafty, stubborn. All of those things he got from his mom. Yeah, seriously. She was in the first service. But listen, we got, and I mean this, we got letters from the school, calls from the school, parent-teacher conferences. We didn't even know with our first one that there's like a spring follow-up as needed parent-teacher conference. We didn't know that. But we got one every year with the other one. And so we were given, the author's John Roseman, and he wrote a book called The Well-Behaved Child, and he wrote a book called Teen Proofing. And ask me how good John Roseman's stuff is. So good. I mean, so good. Like, and listen, he doesn't advocate beatings. So just let's, but the structure and systems that we put in place because of this, and when we did, it was World War III for a week. It was really hard to say, that's it. But once we established that, once we got to where we could just look and say, dude, stop it. And you see, but they know. And from that point, I kid you not, I did a lot of work with Crestview in the school, like volunteering and stuff. We had teachers come to me and say, what did you guys do? Because it was night and day. And I had to assure them there were no beatings and there was, no illegal, unethical, whatever. But everybody was happier in the house and at peace once we just got down to business and established some things. And so if you get to the place where you're like, you're having troubles with your kids and you read the book and you're like, oh, we can never do that. That's just, I don't agree with that. Well, keep the book and tuck it away. And then when your stuff is finally run its course, you're like, all right, then do that like us. And you'll realize, oh my gosh, that just works. So these are both in that app. And I don't want to, I know I'm like, there's a theatric to what I'm doing, and I'm not all that confident or cocky with parenting. I'm just telling you, his stuff works. And for Kelly and I, there is the Bible, and there is John Roseman as stuff that's made our life better. So, check it out. All right. I'm going to invite you guys to stand, and let's have this time of prayer for our school year. Okay, if you could fix your hearts and minds on the area schools, and especially Rise and Shine, and kids and teachers. And Lord, circle our schools and keep these good things within. Eagerness to learn, blossoming of talents, a sense of wonder, enjoyment of sport, experience of beauty, warmth of friendship, the art of listening, respect for all, service of others, teamwork between children and adults, care for the planet, reverence for life, fitness of body, mind, and spirit. Lord, circle our schools and keep these bad things out. Low self-esteem, confusion, prejudice, racism, pride, bullying, cheating, lying, fear, violence of every kind. Lord, protect our kids. Malicious gossip and apathy. Lord, circle our schools, for you are the source of all good things. May every drive to and from school and events be safe. May every bus driver be filled with focus, wisdom, and love. May every parent be focused and present as they drive their child. May every student driver be focused and level-headed as they drive to and from school and events. Bless the administration of each school system near us. May they walk upright. Give them wisdom and courage to do the right thing for your children. Bless every teacher, aide, volunteer, cafeteria worker, office worker, janitor, monitor, and everyone involved with every preschool, public school, private school, and homeschool. May they work together with you, whether knowingly or unknowingly, and together with your blessing, give these children whom you love a wonderful experience this school season. You are the giver of every good thing, and we are grateful for your blessings. In the name of Jesus, the greatest teacher to have ever been with us, we ask these blessings. Amen.